You changed. You had a different color shirt on earlier.
Who, Cherie?
Oh, you.
I had this one on.
No? Wasn't it blue? Okay, maybe I'm losing my mind.
Oh, the light is positioned differently, so it could look different.
Yeah.
I had the light to my side, but then I put it in front of me.
See what happened? See, I'm just saying.
I can't swivel like you do, so.
The things you learn to take from, past experience always comes in handy.
It does indeed. Oh, goodness. Hello to everyone joining us this evening. Welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you for hanging out with us.
And welcome, Natasha.
Miss Tessa, hello.
Hey everybody, good evening to all. I think I screwed up something, but it's okay. It's okay. So, welcome everybody. Welcome to Blockchain Chat. Is everyone looking forward to hearing Deidra McIntyre? Black people in cryptocurrency?
Yes, indeed.
Good. And I want to say a special shout out to YouTube. We're going to go live stream there tonight. So we got Dynamis saying peace from Atlanta. So everybody, put your city and state in the chat for us so we can recognize you. And say hello to everyone. And I actually have a question of the week as well. I'm looking forward to both Talisha and Deidra being able to chime in on this, because I think what we'll be able to do is add some current events to tonight's conversation as well. So I want to say hello to Ohio, Brooklyn, Kentucky, Michigan, California, Texas, Georgia, London. Hey, London, it must be late, must be after midnight there. Chicago. Hey, Daniel. Daniel, I actually have somebody I want you to talk to as well. So I'm going to be connecting the two of you hopefully pretty soon. So Jeffrey from California. Yes, good evening. We got Atlanta in the house. Happy to see everybody. There's Deidra. Good. It's good to talk to everybody tonight. And we're going to get started in one more minute, give people a chance to get your tea, your liquor, your water, whatever it is you are drinking tonight. Yes, I have a little bit of tea. It's not quite Friday yet for the liquor. So I don't know. My hair's looking kind of cray-cray tonight. I should have looked in the mirror before I came on, but we're family, so I guess it'll be okay. Hello, Deidra. How are you tonight?
How are you? I made it. At the last minute, I was like, oh my goodness. I brought my husband's tablet and I'm busy typing. I'm like, DEI, my email address. I didn't even see that. I didn't even log in. I logged in with his account. He don't care.
Oh goodness. Well, I'm glad you look. You're the woman of honor, so we waited on you. So I apologize. My dog has been very verbose all day, so I'm going to limit my talking. But I actually have a pretty important question, and since we're all friends around here, I think we can ask the question and answer it, and not judge me just because I'm founder and all of that doesn't mean I know everything. So I come here to you all to ask a decentralization question based on some of the current events that are happening. But let's officially get started. So, if it's Wednesday, it's Blockchain Day. So welcome to Blockchain Chat. We are all about the business of blockchain here at Black Blockchain Consultants. So I want to welcome you tonight. Every Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern Time, we come, we chat with regards to what's happening in the blockchain industry and how we are able to benefit from it economically, whether it's in terms of your career or in terms of a business you want to start, or even in terms of the community at large. So what I'd like to do this evening is do a little quick presentation. It'll take about, 3 or 4 minutes. And then we are going to introduce Deidra from Black People in Cryptocurrency, have her introduce herself. And then I'm going to ask my very important and, one of those things that make you go, questions. We'll have Deidra talk about some of the projects she's working on. And other than that, we're just going to let the conversation flow here tonight. So with that, I'd like to also say hello to Tawana Rivers. You want to introduce yourself, Tawana?
My name is Tawana Rivers. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at BBC, and welcome everyone.
And we also have Talisha Shine. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Talisha Shine. I'm an Inner Circle member and also the Vice President of Blockchain Consortium International.
All righty then. So let me just introduce everybody to who we are at BBC and what we do. All righty then. So our mission at Black Blockchain Consultants is to help 1 million Black people discover new blockchain careers, start blockchain businesses, invest in blockchain projects, whether you're investing time or money in a project, and ultimately build wealth. A few years ago, people estimated this was going to be a $3.1 trillion industry. We believe it's probably going to be much more than that with regards to the value of the industry. We tend to, as a people, be behind on technology, but this time we are in the right place at the right time. And the question is, how do we capitalize on it? So over the past 3 years, BBC has existed. We've been doing blockchain chat for 3 years. We had a great conference in 2018 in Baltimore. We had some Simba chain training where we actually played around with smart contracts and people were able to set up smart contracts. We were interviewed by Forbes and other press. Actually, the Forbes interviewer was very interesting because he said to me, I didn't know there were Black people in blockchain. And I said, well, let me tell you, we have a whole list. And Deidra actually was the one that created that list of Black people in blockchain. So we'll talk about that as well. We've interviewed Bitcoin Zay, who is the author of Bitcoin in Black America, as well as so many other influential guests. And influencers want to network with us as well. So mainstream adoption of blockchain is coming. And thank you to Talisha, who presented this for me. This is Robert's bell curve of technology. And typically what happens is you have innovators that come in at the very, very beginning. It's about 2 to 3% of a market. And then you have early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. A lot of times we as a people get in on the late majority, but the billions of dollars is made by the innovators and the early adopters. And we are in the, I would say, middle part of early adoption right now. So Talisha's shown us that, yes, there has already been a crack, which I would say literally probably was 2017 when we all got in. And then there's going to be a bigger one that's happening, which is called the chasm. And that's where the millionaires and billionaires are going to be made. So we just want to be a part of that economic windfall. So if you want to, you could become a member of BBC. You get access to our internal communication system. It's called Flock, where we share blockchain news and discuss the latest hot topics. We also, every fourth Monday of the month, we have something we call mastermind or community coaching. People get to come in, talk about their projects, talk about their careers, pick a niche or a major, as I call it, and get unstuck. We also have demos once or twice per quarter. People will come and demo their blockchain software. And we have small networking sessions where you can meet face-to-face via Zoom with entrepreneurs who are active in the industry. Actually, earlier today, Tawana and I spoke with a senior manager at Deloitte who is very interested in networking with us. He has to go back, check with his people and all of that, but he's very interested in coming in and doing a meeting with us. And if that happens, it'll happen in either late February or early March, and it will only be for members. So that may be a great reason for some of you to decide to join us. We can't guarantee that's going to happen. We have to wait for him to get back to us. But those are the caliber of people that's reaching out to us because they want to network with Black people in blockchain. We also geek out over tokenization of assets, smart contracts, and blockchain security. Those are the three major areas where we really want to dig deep over the next couple of years because we see those are the breakout stars or applications within the blockchain industry. And tokenization February is coming. This is a dream. Dr. Keisha and Eric, shout out to them. They have made it a reality. So tokenization February is going to be every Wednesday, starting actually January 27th and going through the end of the month. We have on February 3rd, we have Alistair Caithness coming to talk about tokenization, infrastructure finance, project finance, and public-private partnerships. So basically, how people are going to use tokenization to fund stadiums and roads and infrastructure and all sorts of projects. I'm looking forward to that one personally. Then we have Doug Pepe coming with the Raven coin, talking about how he believes it's the better platform for NFTs, STOs, and tokenization. On February 17th, we have Simba Chain coming to talk about token economies and some of the recent tokenization projects that our group has done. And then on February 24th, our very own Rich Davis is coming to talk about his tokenization project that he is doing. So we definitely want you to be a part of Tokenization February. And also, if you want to become a member and you can take the Blockchain 101 course, it's $197. It's at blockchainstudies.tech. That's blockchainstudies.tech. And I will make sure to put that in the chat for everybody. So Tawana or Talisha, did I miss anything before we get the floor over?
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay, perfect. Welcome, Deidra.
I had to put my mic back on. How you doing?
We are doing great. We are so excited to have you back. It's been over a year since you've been here. So you have
Is that long ago? It didn't seem like it was that long ago.
and it's been a long time. That's why, and you know why? Because we continuously are in contact. But since you've been to blockchain chat, yes, it has been. So it's been far too long, but we have a lot of new people, a lot of new members. So they may not be familiar with you, Black people in cryptocurrency, all of the other projects that you're doing. So why don't you take about 10 minutes and, tell us everything you're doing.
Everything we're doing. Well, Black people in cryptocurrency began in September 2017. So about a year and a half years, whatever, three and a half years old. And we began because initially in 2016, I was tasked with an assignment by a former dot-commer. He's actually a VC, nanotechnology at the time. And he asked me to write up something about Bitcoin because he was getting solicited a lot in terms of, people approaching him about investments, and he didn't know anything about what it was. And I was like, I don't know, it's some type of gaming coin. I haven't really paid attention. And then another one of the now BPC admins, Bob Ponce, was like, no, I've been talking to him for a while about this. He doesn't really understand what I'm saying. You come from a journalism background. I'm going to give you all my links. You deep dive into this and see if you can explain it better than I've been explaining it. So he went ahead, sent me all this material. And so it is about fall of 2016 that kind of my eyes kind of woke up to a whole ecosystem that I didn't know existed. It was well beyond Bitcoin at that time. You're talking about 300 or close to 400 different cryptocurrency projects. And I wrote this report. And as I was writing the report, because the VC I was reporting to was Black and Bob is Black and I was Black, I was kind of drawing a zigzag line between the few Black people, and I would just throw it in just to make him seem like, although the majority of people talking about it were white at the time. And after I did that report and handed it over, and that was about November 2016, I kind of just sat back and I watched, and I would watch the different coins tick up, tick up, tick up, still kind of in disbelief of, you know, how come this wasn't on the radar? How come it's not in the mainstream news, et cetera, et cetera. So that summer, spring into summer, started getting solicited a lot for BitConnect. And I would respond back with, well, you know, you don't have to pay monthly payments to some other company. You could just go get it yourself. You know, these are the exchanges. This is a Bitcoin ATM. And I was kind of ignored a bit by the people who were my friends, who were in my DMs. And I was like, Bob, I'm getting hit up all the time. I was like, you know, I think we should start a group and just target it towards Black people. And at that time, the only person really speaking about Bitcoin off and on was Boyce Watkins, and was very ancillary to his overall platform. It was like every once in a while he would do a live stream. And the first thing we did was we went to search for Black groups and we didn't find any. So I was like, okay, let's just state what it is. I said, we're not going to talk only about Bitcoin. So let's make it plainly descriptive, Black people and cryptocurrency. So we launched a group. And then we slammed all of our friends in it, and most of our friends ignored it, but they kind of joined, but they didn't really participate. But we ended up having a core group of people that did start talking on a regular basis, even though we were just stumbling through it ourselves. And then it just, I think about December of that year, 2017, it kind of took off. I just remember going to my family was a water filtration business, and we were in Florida at a conference early December 2017. And I think the numbers of the group were about 2,000 and something. And within 3 days, it was 4,000 and something. So that was that when Bitcoin was rising but I was like, oh my goodness, where are all these people coming from? Not realizing that Bitcoin was rising and everything came to pass. And so, you know, as we progressed, I went back to some of those Black people that I saw, and some of the people were Sinclair Skinner, who I didn't know, was also Eduardo Jackson. Blacks in Bitcoin is actually the oldest blog, period. So he wasn't on Facebook, he was doing his Cinema Draft, which is his startup in blockchain. But on the web, Blacks in Bitcoin, I was like reading it a lot, you know, in terms of like understanding the space. So I said, you know, after a while, I was like, you know, I'm going to start talking to these people because no one's talking to them. And they would eventually refer me to other people. Well, you know, so-and-so is Black and this person is Black. And so slowly we started doing, especially in 2018, tail end of 2017 into 2018, we started doing these one-on-one live streams within Facebook and just getting to know people and what their struggles were. And I slowly realized it was pretty much the same thing as the .com era that had just come out of, because I had come out of that space working as a producer, executive producer, and manager for .com that was in New York City at the time, and a precursor to Facebook and MySpace and all of them. And so it's just the list, BBC Black on a Blockchain list kind of evolved again from just knowing all these people existed and kind of actually trying to create a historical record. Because if you ever looked at the list, the very bottom of the list has some trivia stuff that I still have to update because there's more first. But just random stuff like the movie Dope was the first feature film to have Bitcoin as a subplot. I mean, or the very first woman to have to sell a musical release by Bitcoin was a Black woman. And it was just a lot of little trivia things to add to the book, to the list, in addition to the startup founders. And I'm still updating Startup Founders. The reason why we made it a Google Doc is to keep it a hot list. Because if we were to publish it, it's almost as old, like 3 months later, as anything else. So people constantly can go back to it and check the list and see if anyone was added. I just added someone, I think, last week. Dan Eigenman, I think is his name. He's half Swiss and half Nigerian. And he actually has a product, a non-blockchain product that is basically, he knocked off Clubhouse with open source software, but most of his projects are blockchain related and very technical young guy. So we're constantly stumbling people usually DM me either on LinkedIn or whatever and say, hey, take a look at this, and see if you want to add it to the list. And so in terms of Black people in cryptocurrency today, we still probably try to stay on task, which is really trying to provide support for the startup founders that are in our network. We're changing a little for 2021. You can see our branding started changing in 2020. But we're changing more to actually utilize a lot more of the decentralized ecosystem and spaces. So we're actually educating ourselves. We just had a session today. Actually, I was supposed to come on here and say it was going to be tomorrow, but I mixed up the dates and I put Jamari's session today. So we had to have it today instead of tomorrow. And he was like, wait a minute, I thought it was freaking Thursday. I was like, oh, you did say Thursday. Okay, well, it's Wednesday now. But basically just learning different platforms that we can utilize to better have members join us and give their input, as opposed to the discussion forum, which can get kind of rough at times and really is not really a great place for organizing some of the things that we want to do in the future. So we're going to start pulling away from Facebook in terms of organizing for ourselves and talking beyond blockchain 101, and then keep the discussion group more for blockchain 101 and how to buy Bitcoin and that sort of thing. So that's kind of like a rough sketch of, even though I didn't go into detail, I was born in a small town. No. It's late. It's kind of rough. I don't know how you do stuff at 7:30 at night, because I'm like, oh.
Oh, like this is the beginning for us. So yes.
I have young kids, so I'm up at like 5. So now I'm like, oh, I'm crashing.
Oh, goodness. Oh, wow. Well, okay. So the last time you were here, you were working on a couple of other private contracts or projects as well. I can't remember, the exact information about them, but are you working on anything else that's kind of cool that we should know about or thinking about? Any other projects?
Well, in terms of the group, we're going to be slowly going more decentralized, because it's funny that you brought up that term and wanted to know. So that's the reason why we had the workshop we had today. It was basically on Aragon. I don't know if you're familiar with Aragon. Aragon is the 2 founders from Spain, and it's an organizational tool for creating DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, which are basically a structure born from blockchain. Most decentralized cryptocurrencies are automatically DAOs. So Bitcoin Core, Litecoin Core, even Monero and Dash, definitely. It's how they structure things. There might be a certain tier to it, but essentially the people who are most vested into the work and the updates of the cryptocurrency also have voting power in the direction. So that's why you hear all these disputes about, if they're going to fork or not going to fork. It's not as random as you think. They have a structure to them, which different people are elected to positions, and other people are, every DAO can be slightly different. It's like any other organizational structure. If you think about your church or you think about your job or something like that. So every DAO can determine what its organizational structure is, and then they give the votes accordingly to sort of move forward. So we're going to work to create our own DAO for Black people in cryptocurrency. And so our first lesson today was basically the Aragon tool, which is set on Ethereum blockchain, and allows you basically to set up the structure that you want, and then set up, if weighted votes or whatever. And so we'll be able to basically be able to fundraise. And instead of, kind of you doing it kind of hokey, where you're just like, all right, well, send it to my wallet and it'll go to the organization. No, we can't actually give the address of the DAO. And so if money goes into the DAO, it can't get out of the DAO unless the group that's in there has come to consensus on a specific vote or a specific use case for the funds. So that makes it a lot easier for me, because I've always, at this point, I've always said to people, even if they wanted to give something, it was like, oh, sometimes I put it off. I'm just like, oh, wait, we're going to do something later. And other times it's just kind of like, well, we're not prepared or we're not ready for that yet, because I really wanted to do it from the framework of decentralized. I mean, it's one thing to talk about how great the decentralized world can be in the business case. Is nothing to implement. So we Aragon we knew about a year ago, actually, more than a year ago. I think it was August of 2019 when Jamari first brought it to our attention, and we just weren't ready to implement or even really learn about it. So he's been playing around with it for over a year, and he was like, look, now is the time, because we're actually getting approached by outside organizations also, to what can we do with cryptocurrency? And we didn't want to do it what a lot of people do. We'll just buy and hold and just safe with Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum. And we wanted to do something where they could utilize some of these tools, but we couldn't recommend any of these tools if we're not using them ourselves. So that's the kind of direction that we're going into, to work on start using some of these decentralized tools that exist, and then basically working to help other people, whether it's churches and Black Lives Matter chapters, whatever, to say these are some ways you can make your finances more transparent. People who want to donate, you don't have to worry about, well, they gave it to so and so and where was the check. Just start getting people in the habit of making things digital, and then it goes into a specific wallet, and then you guys decide from there how you want to utilize that, whatever voting system that you set up. So that's kind of the direction we're definitely shifting. We shifted in terms of the brand a bit, but we're shifting in terms of our actual implementation of decentralized tools and actually using them as a case study of ourselves to be able to advise other people.
Yeah, I love that, because we're even looking at that as well. So we have noticed that some of our members are for example, they want to get into smart contracts. So Dr. Keisha did a great job last year of bringing in Chain, and some of the members, I think close to 30, got in there and started learning how to make smart contracts. And then we have another one of our members, Rich, who is going to be tokenizing a digital show, So our members are definitely looking at that as well. And I think that's where the chasm comes in that I had talked about in that little presentation, where we need to right now start to fool with it, even if it's just a couple of dollars in there, so that when others start flooding in, we're prepared, because we could say, yes, we've done these things before. The other thing you mentioned is, where'd the money go? So I'm going to call it transparency. There's a lot of mistrust. And this goes a little bit into my question of the night as well. And I do see the question in here from Alexis, but my question actually dovetails into Deidre. So I want to ask this without it being a political question, because it really is not a political question, even though it's entrenched in politics. Looking at everything that happened last week and the fallout from it, I'm sure everybody knows what happened at the Capitol. So, and the fallout from it, over the course of, I would say 48 hours, basically everything was stripped away. So all of the communication processes within this group of people was stripped away. Twitter asked them, Facebook, all of the major social media. So then they were all going to go to this other app called Parler. Well, then Amazon and Apple and Google said no. So basically, it basically crippled their communication structure. And then you say, okay, but we can still get money. Well, then Shopify said, no, you can't, because you can't sell your wares on our system, So it really got me thinking, and I'm not political. I could care one way or the other,
Mhm.
but I am thinking in terms of, is this going to accelerate decentralization within communication and communication structures? Because this is something that I believe a lot of different groups are looking at and saying, oh my goodness, we could get crippled overnight with regards to our communication, our ability to fundraise, et cetera. They may be looking at this as an example and saying, let's move to decentralization and dApps and all of that a lot faster. So that was my question. I have no idea how to even
Yeah,
begin to answer it.
I think that it's a kind of a two-edged sword. I think in many ways we like to pretend that the alt-right isn't already in blockchain, and they're in there faster than we are and deeper than we are. The only reason why I started, the group on Facebook, and I was aware of some of the decentralized social media platforms, is because I was like, if I go over into these centralized social media platforms and try to encourage people to come there, I'm going to have to put up all these blocks because the white supremacist is already there. So they must have pecking orders within themselves, because I don't understand how this group doesn't know that the other group is there. Maybe because the other group went to college and
or yeah,
are
the inner
starting
circles.
businesses, but that doesn't
Yeah.
make them any less white supremacists. They are there, and they express their views, and they have foot and mouth disease, and they don't care. So this idea, I think it shows, the media has showed that there's a chasm of understanding of what blockchain has already achieved. Now it's very easy for them. I'm sure they've already been approached by people. It's like, well, why would you even bother? You can come to the decentralized world and join the rest of us that are already there. So I don't think it's really solving any problems. Seen a lot of media coverage. Even before the interview, I tuned in to catch Isaiah Jackson on Squawk Box, but I came in a little bit before the time he was supposed to come in, but they were already talking about Parler and saying all this stuff about, it's concerning when companies do this and companies do that. And I was just like, well, everything that they were doing on Parler, they could do in the decentralized, and there's nobody can rug pull that. The only thing people following these groups or anybody, us, whatever, can do is follow them into the decentralized world in terms of law enforcement. So that's going to be a bizarre type of thing, because now you can't shut down the streaming service. You can't shut down the social media.
Yeah, that was my point.
How are you going to follow them? And then, there's the other point where, just being Black and knowing how long it took them to pull the plug on the current person that's in office, the impeached one, 2 times, how long it took for them to censor him compared to, I've been blocked about at least 5 or 6 times on different social media platforms for violating a kindness policy. Kindness. No cursing, no profanity. I can be gruff. I know I can be, and sometimes it's intentional. I can be sarcastic, and sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes it's not. I'm just putting it out there. You shouldn't take it too seriously. But kindness. And I was livid, because I was like, well, my response, because mind you, I'm in many ways, the blockchain world began in 2009. I was something else in 2009 previously. So I have far more extensive writings on Kemen and Kush than I do about Bitcoin or blockchain. And was in a debate with this woman, and she said something about just because you presented evidence that the ancient Egyptians were genetically, linguistically, culturally, and phenotypically Black didn't make them Black. And I said, well, you must be some kind of special person to imagine these people white. I was blocked for that because I wasn't kind. Now, I didn't say anything about, you being dumb, or it was nothing. It was very sarcastic, very poignant, and I don't even think I used exactly those words, but it was something akin to that. It was real short. And she reported the thing because it hurt her feelings. And Facebook chose to block me anti-cannabis. And then I went and I forwarded and I got back into the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I couldn't comment against her because I guess she's blocking me or whatever. So I took, because I took a screenshot when I realized, someone gets stuck and you're like, what's going on? Like, is it internet lag? By the time I said, let me take a screenshot of what I wrote. Then I found out I was blocked. And then I read the thing, kindness. And then I couldn't respond to her because she was blocking me. So I went to the main thread, it's a sub thread, and I was like, here's what I wrote. And I put the picture up. But given that, certain people, not just officer position, but just random people are given such a wide girth to do and say what they want to say, that is beyond opinion. You can have an argument with someone, you can disagree with them or whatever, but they can say violent things and plan violent things and take pictures of guns, stuff we could never do in a million years.
Yeah.
That was the problem, because
Well, yeah.
they were not allowed to be enabled and given the benefit of the doubt, and they're not serious and this, that, and stuff. Whereas we do the slightest thing and it's a joke among Black people. Well, I just got out of Facebook jail. Why? Because you got into an argument with someone. But you didn't threaten them. You never got that far. So now you have these people. Now all of a sudden you're going to show some type of reaction after the fact that you have people in Congress who threatened with their lives and people actually died and everything like that. Now after the fact you're going to do it. Well, now some of the people that are already in a decentralized world say, come over here.
Well, that was my point.
We set you up.
Yeah, COVID accelerated things by years. And I honestly believe that this incident is going to accelerate decentralized communication. That was my point.
Mm-hmm.
And we can look at it as, alt-right or whatever. However, people within the Black social media community is looking opposite at Farrakhan and at some of our leaders as well. So what I'm saying, and then we haven't even talked about some of these corporations that want to keep things decentralized yet hidden, et cetera. I do think that law enforcement eventually, just like they did with the Silk Road, will find a way to penetrate it. But who knows? Who knows? Yeah. So, and I do want to thank Talisha for putting in the Blacks in Blockchain list. So everybody within Zoom, you want to grab that and bookmark it, please, so that you can keep up with that list as well. Tawana and Talisha, I want to ask Alexis's question, and then I'll let you guys ask your question. So Alexis is asking, what is the best type of wallet to use as a Bitcoin beginner? Right now, I just did my first purchase through Cash App. So first of all, congratulations, Alexis. What's the best type of wallet for her to use?
I generally choose the ones that are very visually appealing. So I'm not one to necessarily say, okay, well, you got to go get a hard wire, you got to go get a ledger or treasure. Although a lot of people might group, are like focused on, it's got to be a cold wallet. I think the software wallets are fine, and some of the more visually appealing ones are Exodus, Jack's Liberty, and probably Atomic Wallet. You can watch a video of someone showing you how to do it. They're multi-coin wallets. So you have the benefit of if you just bought Bitcoin, that's fine. But if you buy another cryptocurrency at any other time, you have a wallet, the same wallet that you log in, that you can see both in the same. And I mean, a lot of these people, these wallets, they carry about 30 different cryptos at the same time. You can reduce how many that you see. So yeah, Exodus, Atomic, and Jack's Liberty. Those, some you got to read the specs because some are desktop only. I think Liberty and Jack's Liberty and Exodus also have mobile, but I think Atomic may only be desktop. I can't remember
right now.
Start with those and then get into others because it gives you an idea. Some of them have, at least Exodus does. I'm not sure if Jax, I think Jax does too. Probably all three, Atomic. They'll let you exchange in wallet also. So you don't have to go back to another exchange necessarily. But the fees are generally kind of high. So you might want to go to exchange because you're constantly looking at the fees. But if you want the convenience of doing it, you can do it in wallet, some basic coins without going to an exchange. I think, a lot of times things can look too geeky for people that are coming into the space. So my recommendation is often kind of the ones that are more visually appealing versus anything else. But there probably are better wallets, like the hard wallets. I don't know, that debate, I get in a debate and I'm teasing a group member and hopefully he's not taking too much offense to it. For me, the coldest wallet is paper. You can have your both your keys to a particular wallet on actual physically printed out paper and just put it in a safe or make it a copy and drop it off at your grandmother's safe or something. No, so any place that you would store your valuables. For me, and the reason is somebody shared recently, it was in the news with a guy has 2 tries left on his hard wallet.
$200 million.
For 702 Bitcoin dollar value. And I teased the other person. I said, see, I told you paper was better because I guarantee you he would have never put 7,000 Bitcoin on a single wallet. So he may have lost 8 of those sheets of paper that have 1,000 on it each, but he still has money left versus being so secure that if you forget the seed, forget it. You can't get in it. So people in our group was like, maybe you should get a hypnotist and guarantee that she get a certain number of Bitcoin because at this point you don't want to risk 2 more trials and it's locked forever. I don't even think most Americans use Iron Key anyway, but that's not the point. It's kind of like a reliance on a device. Sometimes that device can have an issue. Granted, paper can rip up too. When kids with markers can mess up your stuff. So there's always a risk. There's no absolute safe when you're managing your own funds. So for now, I say stick with the software wallets. Also, when you do decide on what software wallet that you want, watch a number of videos on how to secure that specific wallet and how to back up that specific wallet. And because they make it so easy for you to get started, they don't actually force you necessarily to secure it right away. Like they may give you the seed phrase and then, okay, you're good to go. But there's another layer where you can add a password to it. If you need to, if you have multiple people in your house using the same computer or something like that. So, watch all the things about, withdrawing funds and sending funds and so that you're comfortable with it before you actually download the wallet and use it.
And start small. Don't move all your Bitcoin over at once. I mean, I started with the $1. Like I want to make sure a couple of times that it went over.
Then the other thing, if you're copying that address, you definitely, if you're not going to look through everything, you definitely look at the beginning first 4 and the end first 4 to make sure you copy the whole thing. Because if you miscopy it, I mean, some addresses now are savvy. Like some addresses, like you put it in there, it gives you a green check. That's a real address. So, but back in the day, it was like you forgot the last letter or digit or whatever, and it just went into the ether. And you're like,
because it did not say false or anything like that, and there is no 1-800 can I get my password back in this space. So, well, I do want to open it up.
And you have to send. You have to send. No problem. You also have to make sure you're sending to the right thing. If you bought Bitcoin, send to the receiving address of your Bitcoin. And you get Litecoin, don't send it to Bitcoin, send it to, if you're withdrawing. Sometimes they have it when they withdraw from the exchange. Make sure you're sending it to it's going to the receiving address of the correct cryptocurrency.
If I may, I just want to say for everybody, this is also a lesson in the business of blockchain, because just like you don't want to mess up your wallet, there are going to be a lot of people, millions of people coming behind us that don't want to mess up their wallets either. So these are the types of things where you ask yourself, what am I having trouble with now? And then when you get over that hump, you know, you may want to hang up your shingle and say, I can help you with this. So Talisha and Tawana.
Yeah, I'll jump in and kind of give my 2 cents about the question you asked. You know, I generally do not believe in censorship. And so, you know, some of the censorship that's happening now is, you know, too late, in my opinion, and it's just really a waste of time. But you know, there have always been secret societies, right? You know, now we're calling them decentralized platforms, but there have always been these secret clubs or secret societies. And the fact that we are moving into a digital age, we can't expect those things to go away. They will only increase and become more. So, you know, I to your point, Cherie, seeing an acceleration of that, it just makes sense. I'll also add, you know, with mass adoption and the attention, with mass adoption coming and the attention Bitcoin is getting, I just see more and more reasons for these two organizations to educate. Because some of the questions I'm seeing people asking, I cringe, like, oh goodness, like I wanna chime in and save them, like, you know, I wanna, and we kind of have to do that because, you know, it's all over the media, and so everybody and grandma is buying a Bitcoin right now, right? Or some fraction of a Bitcoin, and I just don't think they're prepared and have the tools yet that they need to be savvy enough. We've all kind of been through it. We've done the copy and pasting wrong. We've done the, you know, forgetting the password, and maybe we've got some coins somewhere sitting. You know, we've made all of those mistakes, and we need to figure out a way to save people from making some of those mistakes, because I'm just seeing in both of our groups, actually, because I am a member of Black People in Crypto as well, and I see some of the conversations, and it's kind of like, thanks, you know, people need a little bit of TLC with this. We've got to figure out how to help them.
So I'm going to go kind of piece by piece with the question with regard specifically to Parler, because that platform was already in existence before any of this came about. It kind of creeped up, and there's a backstory to it, who it's, you know, who's funded it, because you don't, you know, just all of a sudden come up one day with a, you know, a Facebook competitor. Most people don't do that. But I think what happens is, and this is a falsehood that happens overall, just because you use a term and you use kind of like, I always call it like the marketing terms, we're secure, we're safe, we have blockchain inspired, all of those things start to happen. People get real comfortable and become, I'm going to give you my social security number, a copy of my driver's license, and my address. Who would do that? Like, that's my question. Like, I'm not a Facebook.
They did that in Parler?
Yeah, to get to be you have to be a certified citizen to that. You had to give your social security number and your copy of your driver's license. That's why the no flight list was instant, because, and the back end was not secure. Yeah. It was wide open. The hackers didn't even have to hack it. All they had to do was make a call to it. And it just literally poured out. Like, I know where Sally lives because I got her driver's license, her social security number. She gave me everything without even having to do anything. And that's the problem of that impetus, that we don't know what we're talking about, but people feel real comfortable of just giving things away, not knowing. And that's across the board. People are like, oh, it's sort of like blockchain. Well, if it's not a blockchain, it's not. You have to be very careful with some of that. And so that's where we get. And this isn't censorship in the sense that I'm like, the First Amendment allows you to say a whole lot of things, but it doesn't curtail you from getting ramifications.
Agree.
And that's the part of, like, even in a decentralized world, there's going to be rules. It's not going to be a free for all. We keep forgetting that this is not the Wild Wild West. It has rules, because even in the Wild Wild West, you could get shot. You could get kicked out of
unless
town.
your platform, unless that's the position.
Yes, unless that's the position.
There are no rules. You can say and do whatever you want.
That always comes, like, because people need structure, that people always want to group. People always want to make a hierarchy or priority. That's what we do as human nature. That's the study of psychology in it. So there's always going to be some pushback. Even if you have it wide open, there's going to be boundaries inserted into it. So that's what we have to continuously remember, that, yep, you're going to start one way, but that doesn't always mean that you're going to remain that way. And participation is that way. When you show up, things change. So whoever comes. And that's what we see in different places, because that's what Parlor was like, oh, I'm not a racist. I'm just here, sharing my Etsy things. And I'm like, girl, it's a dog whistle. I could hear that a mile away. Like, that's what it becomes, because that's who came there and took over. And so this is a great use case of what people thought it was, what the capabilities are, and really what it was. And I think these are the kinds of things that when people start to delve into what is security, what does it mean when I give you, what are you doing with my data? These are the questions now that people are going to ask, just because, now I'm in jail because I went somewhere where I wasn't, or now I'm not allowed to fly home because I gave somebody my information. And this is the first part, when it hits home, when you just giving things free and, without a consequence, I just want to participate. Now you see what cost your participation is. You gave somebody something that now takes away your liberty. And that's becoming, I think that's what the use case is for this. It's not only decentralized, but what happens to data. We're now talking about it in a different sensibility, like, oh shit, you mean I can go to jail for posting on a social media site? Yes, you can go to jail now.
And the thing was, I didn't even realize it was that way. I had saw some childhood friends talking about they was leaving Facebook to go to Parlor and all this kind of stuff, and Parlor's so much better. I'm not paying them any attention, but it just shows that somebody understood that demographic, that they would be that naive to turn over that amount of information.
And it was blatant. It wasn't even as if there was a falsehood of security. That's what they kept saying. It's you can say whatever you want. This is the freedom of speech, and you have your First Amendment rights, and we'll protect your data. We're not going to censor you, but that's what they kept saying. But like, read that fine print. Why are you taking my social security number? Why do you even need it? The DMV only needs the last 4, and they giving me my license. You're asking me for it all. You're asking me for a physical copy to make me certified with my driver's license. And like I said,
the thing is, if it were really decentralized, next thing you know, somebody's making your IDs with your information from outside the country, and then they come in because I'm in the space, but I even feel that I was fished at one point. Someone had the lure of, we want to hire you for writing, and I remember getting the email, and it's not uncommon that I get unsolicited email because I've given my email out, So I'll look at it, and so I say most stuff I don't respond to, some things I do respond to. And so I said, okay, but how did you get to somebody sent me, your they used the European term, the vitae. And I was like, okay. And then about a month later, it was like, we want to do a Zoom call. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I get to see a face. Never turned the camera on, it's a picture. But voice, interview, questions weren't unusual. Well, we don't want to write it right now, but, soon we'll let you know. And then about a month after that, it was like, yeah, well, congratulations. We want to onboard you. And so I'm thinking, okay, unsolicited email, Zoom call, the camera didn't come on. So I'm already two flags in. Meet us on this Slack. And I go to the Slack and I look at the Slack and I'm like, all of these profiles, like nobody really has a photo. It's like a illustration or a funny thing. And I know when I enter my Slack, I think I don't even know what you really said it to or whatever. I couldn't remember if it was me or not. And they would say, well, Deidra, we just want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And I've never signed a non-disclosure agreement for a spec writing gig. So all of a sudden, the third flag is about to raise. I said, I'll go look at this non-disclosure agreement. They're like, put in your passport number, your this. I was like, you know what? I'm out. And then she was like, wait, where you going? I said, that's okay. We could talk it over. If you don't want to provide that, you could do your life. No, that's okay. It's a writing gig. What do I know about your company? Yeah. Nothing. All I know is that you want me to write this angle. Here are the resources you have. And I need to know if I can interview some of my own sources. If not, I'll just interview the sources that you gave me. And then I'll write the article. I don't know anything about your company. So why am I? And I signed an NDA agreement when I'm giving you my full passport number and everything. And I didn't even want to give any more information because if I actually felt comfortable, I would have said, I can get something notarized and have it sent to. I was like, no, I'm just completely out.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine doing what they trust a lot more. I can imagine.
That was the exit. Like November 13th, there was a very large community on Facebook called, Leaving Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
They had like 13,000 members on that day. And it was like, we're leaving, all indignant, righteous indignation, and we're going to Parler. And so it was like, okay, bye, see y'all. We're being censored here and we're just not taking it. It's like, nobody really cares if you leave, and you really don't need to keep announcing that you leave, just leave. And then it was that whole, everybody's like, oh, find me on Parler. That was the whole thing for.
That's what I was seeing. Yes.
Yeah. It was like, meet me on Parler. And I was like, you got to stop saying that. You really should. Because, that's not a good place for us to be. And I'm not joining you. So you can definitely ask me. I'm not coming. But I know what's there because I could easily see. But again, it's open. It's very wide open. And they were asking, like I said, to me, very, I would say, invasive questions. But because people were so riled up, that's where that passion, and you're not thinking, you just don't want to be censored. Well, I wouldn't be giving my driver's license to anybody just because I don't like the rules on Facebook. I mean, it doesn't equate to the same thing. And then having all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like you got to stop at one point. You could.
Yeah, I would love to see what the section, what the disclosure or disclaimer was when it actually.
There wasn't.
Like what
it doesn't. There's no disclaimer. That's the point. There's no disclaimer. It's just a literally. It's like put your information here. Give me your copy of your thing here. There is no disclaimer. That's what I'm saying. Like you don't even know that you just given your information wide open. And like I said, they went in the back end and just scooped it. It wasn't even secure to the point where they were just sitting out there. An 8th grader could have hacked that thing, and making calls. So now everybody ran back in, deleted everything. But it's like, it's cash, like everything.
No, you can't delete everything. It's there.
You can't delete anything because it's there. I could just, go back to the November 13th. That's when you showed up. I got all your information, all that I ever needed. And people are like, oh, I don't know how they created these lists so fast. It was real quick because all they did was like, dump, here you go, FBI. And the FBI was like, thanks. We don't even need anything else. And you just pick them up. The list was already built for them by the time they got it. So it was like, I know it's just so pitiful, but this is that people want things, but they don't know what they're asking for when they say, oh, I just want this. It's like, you gotta think about it. You may be impassioned and have this thing, but there are certain things that aren't structured for you. And this is your data and it can be used against you. If nothing else, this will prove that your data, if you're going to be, kind of free with it and cavalier, it's going to cost you much more than you think. Because these platforms, you're the commodity on each of them. When you show up, you are the product.
I don't think people realize that right there, you can stick a pin right there. That's the piece that I don't think most people understand, is that they are not just a consumer in these spaces.
No, yeah.
They are the commodity. Mm-hmm. And I think if we understood we had more power than an average consumer, then we would make better choices. And we would then start also building our own, right?
Right, because it's like, I want it customized. I want it my way, like Burger King. Yes, you can have it your way, but it's not going to be here. And these are the rules and kind of, I think, the structures that we're looking at. So even before we get to the infrastructure, we got to understand what the ask is. And this goes back to my business, the blockchain. We can build anything, but we got to know what we're building and why. Because there's technology already here just waiting for it to be applied, but we have to strategically understand what and why. What are going to be the rules? How are we going to monitor? How are we going to safeguard ourselves from incidents like this? How do we keep people in and keep those people that we don't want out? All of those things have to have conversations and dialogue before we even begin to have that, like I said, because we can throw up a site, as you just see, Parler threw that sucker up. But this is what happens when you just go, oh yeah, it looks nice and pretty and it operates and I can click and I can do what I want there.
Well, see here, there's also the problem of funding, because you didn't mention who funded them. But somebody funded Russian. Well, that makes sense because what they were collecting, it makes sense based on what they were collecting. But even if Russia isn't funding, there's a lot of stuff that's funding. I mean, right now, Clubhouse is off the rails, but there's some issues with that. You're in a room where your voice is being displayed all over the place between wiretapping and everything else. So how did that get funded? But people are rushing there because celebrities were put into the room.
Because Barbara Bickham, for those of you who know, Barbara's joined us even here on BBC. She does a newsletter. And one of the questions she asked in today's newsletter was about Clubhouse. And her question was, we're all running there, right? We're all spending time there and telling all our business there. But, who's on the cap table? Who sits on the board, right? We need to make smarter choices when we are all in on these platforms that are truly not for us. They don't represent us, right? And the Black community has flocked to Clubhouse like nobody's business. And I read an article the other day that said Clubhouse was on their last leg. Yeah. They were either going to fold. Had they not made a change, it was closing, or they were going to be amazing. And they were able to get those, like you said, Talisha, earlier, the network marketing people came in and kind of entrepreneurs, and they've been thriving since. But we just saved a business that doesn't do anything for the Black community.
It doesn't do anything for the Black community. And again, we've put ourselves in the position of being the cash cow for someone else. Because like I said, I just added someone. When you go check that Black BPC, new BPC look, you look to see the last person, the Dean guy that's there. Dean Eigenmann, he's Swiss, but he's half Nigerian. He knocked off Clubhouse in a 2-day dev thing.
Is he the needle
more
guy?
Secure version. Excuse me?
Is he the needle guy? Because there's supposed to be a Black platform called Needle, Nedl.
No. His is called Soapbox.
Okay.
And it's also only for iPhone. See, that's another reason why I'm not there. I use Android. But it's only for iPhone. It's called Soapbox. But he went into, and I've never met him. What happens is we had another live stream with another dev who's a friend of his and kind of colleague of his, and he's in the Rick Dudley, who did a meeting live stream with us on VPNs, and how people they're not as secure as you think they are, neither are Tor. So he basically broke that down. We in a segue in the conversation to other things, DeFi, and also about Clubhouse, and he was like, well, my friend Dean did a knockoff of Clubhouse that's actually more secure, and he did it in 2 days. So he said, there's a difference between what's being funded. Now, he said, granted, he's like, well, Dean, you see Dean, you're really not sure if he's Black or not, or half Black, because he's from Switzerland. There's something there, but you're not really sure unless he really will say something. He said, but that's not the point. He said, the real devs are not getting to work. He said, in many cases, whether they're Black or white, he says, more chance if you're white, but definitely if you're Black or of color, you're not getting it right. And from his perspective, Rick and him's it's like, it's real shoddy work. It's really shoddy dev work in terms of security. So they're looking back saying, these VCs went on a limb and all this marketing and this stuff, but they don't even really have a good product. So, Dean has about 5 or 6 different, and most of them are in blockchain and blockchain related infrastructure stuff. But as a whim, he just did a Clubhouse where it calls a Soapbox and just did it in a few days. And his is more of like smaller rooms. You don't have the big stadium and 50 people and the thing. But if you wanted to get together with a few friends, 8 people in the room, you could have a voice channel with that. But I told Rick, I was like, I can't even do that because again, it's only for Apple. Because he was like, go try it out.
They come over.
iPhone, y'all can try it out. You go Soapbox in the Apple Soapbox, so you'll see it. It looks like purple soap. But it's just one of those things where I think as Black people, we're certainly disgruntled because we just don't get the funding that we should to develop the ideas that we have, or even the demos that we've developed. But there's also a white on white battle too. If you're not a white male if you're a white male who didn't go to Stanford, Berkeley, MIT, even Princeton maybe, you're also out of the loop. And we're seeing some of those battles play out. Like if you follow a lot of the crypto news, like for me personally, even though I don't really talk a lot about my favorites, my all-time favorite coin is Dash.
Dash.
Just hands down. In terms of their understanding of decentralization. It's not to say that they're perfect. It's not to say there's not infighting. It's not to say if it's way too male, because it is. But too male and too white male, it is. But what they've done in terms of rolling out products and for merchant services and for remittance, and they were able to do it long time before Bitcoin had started Lightning Network and stuff like that. So for what they've done in that space, even though it was incubated, I think at Arizona State University, it's like they're being kind of shoved to the side on stuff that really doesn't make any sense. So this past week, there was a whole lot of delisting, something privacy. And I kept telling people, well, privacy coins, they'll say privacy coin is dead or whatever. And I said, well, in many ways, I understand why they're fighting back, because many people don't know you can change your address when you're sending out Bitcoin doesn't mean it can't be done. So anybody who has a Bitcoin address, if every time you wanted to send Bitcoin to someone, you can make it appear like it's coming from different people. That's essentially what it's essentially what Dash does. So when he's fighting back and saying we're no more private than Bitcoin, there's a technical reason behind that. Does Dash have more additional privacy? Yeah, it does. But if you really wanted to track, you can track from the on-ramp. Most people are buying. You're buying KYC related, whether you're buying from a Bitcoin ATM or you're buying from an exchange. That first fiat on-ramp draws a map to where you're going in terms of exchanging for other stuff. So in many ways they're trying to make the case that we're not, but you'll see this pushback against Dash that might not be applied to Zcash. Well, why wouldn't it be applied to Zcash? Oh, because Zcash came out of Stanford and Johns Hopkins and Tession in Israel. So there's this pecking order that we can do something because we're in the in-white boy crowd, but you can't do something because you're a second-tier white boy. And what does that mean for us? We stay out of the loop.
Yeah, we way out.
We have to be able to fund our own. We have to be able to fund our own projects, and that is why the 10K project was birthed, because it came from here, from us within BBC saying, hey, it's time for us to start funding our own projects. Well, we are at actually the end of our hour, but I have a final question for you, Deidra. Predictions, let's say next 2 to 3 years, with regards to the blockchain industry. Where do you think the money is going? Where are the opportunities? What should our people be studying and looking at?
I think, as many years as people have been into Bitcoin, they have that expression for the coins that are not Bitcoin, which begins with an F. I think we're going to see the rise of the shit coins, mainly because Ethereum is a platform, is extremely bloated. They're the number one spot. They're the IBM of yesterday, the Microsoft of yesterday. But there's a lot of room to take away, since the promise of ETH2 has been forever. There's a lot of room for people like 88 Cardano to be the next corporate king, or a prince rather, and take a little bit of the bloat from Ethereum. But there's also a lot of room for other players. I particularly like, from the media realm, I like Theta. I think they're offering a lot right now for people to get in and be node holders in that area. They basically have resolved a lot of the content delivery of live stream videos. And considering they have partners with YouTube as one of their advisors, Twitch founder as one of their advisors, Samsung as one of their partners, and Google as one of their partners, the people that ordinarily would seem like they're a competitor seems like they're a partner. So even if Theta as a channel doesn't get off the ground, so Theta as a brand, as a quote unquote Netflix killer or whatever, doesn't get off the ground, I think they're going to end up being the back end to all of these video streaming service providers because they're building out this blockchain. So Black people, especially if you're not new, you should probably be looking at properties like that. I still think you should look at Dash, although Dash Masternode is extremely expensive. It's about $135,000 right now, but Dash Masternode holders are not only doing the exchange of Dash, but they're actually investing in other non-blockchain companies. So, I mean, if I were recommending someone who was not even up my income bracket, I would tell them to get a couple of Dash Masternodes. It'll pay off later. So I think we're going to see a lot of rise of the alts. It's a possibility if Tron's founder doesn't completely go off the rails, that is going to rise, mainly because of the developers on Tron, not necessarily their founder. So I think the development of Litecoin, I don't want to leave out Litecoin. Litecoin just in December has a Visa-backed credit/debit card that if you have Litecoin, you can shop anywhere and deduct it. And Litecoin, like Dash, they kind of relatively stay in the $100 to $150 range. There's not a lot of volatility there. It doesn't mean there can't be, but there just really isn't. So I think I'm hoping that I'm not real comfortable about some recent pumps of Dogecoin, because we know it's the joke coin. But I think all the little pumps kind of, in my opinion, benefit the alt-right in some respects, mainly because of who's talking about it. Mm-hmm. Not a fan of Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, and that's the original alt-right crew. So every time he says something and Doge gets a little spike, it's hee haw, but someone's cashing out on the other end of that little spike. So even though Doge has no activity around it, I think that if XRP doesn't come back, that's going to be the new pumped coin of like social media people. And unfortunately, our people participate in this nonsense. So I'm a little leery of more quote unquote valid, because Doji is a valid decentralized coin, but a pump and dump is a pump and dump. So I'm more leery that some of that stuff is going to unfortunately increase if people don't understand how to read total supply and circulating supply and realize that coins that are pumped and people telling you is going to boom like Bitcoin is not. I think Bitcoin is still going to be the gateway, still going to be king, it's still going to be the draw. But the drawback of Bitcoin is twofold. You have Lightning Network, which essentially is not quite Bitcoin. They're not really using the Bitcoin blockchain. That is going to be a fintech win, but not necessarily a Bitcoin win. And then Bitcoin still struggles with the development around it. People not really knowing, like Ethereum, not really knowing the development tools around it. So I think we're going to see the space opening up a bit. Bitcoin is still going to be that thing that's going to be that store value that you want to keep stuff in, and maybe Ethereum, but neither one might be the ideal place for a small startup to start on. You're going to more than likely look to see what Litecoin, Tron, and Dash are going to do for the small business person, whether it's retail or whether it's developing platforms, NFT, or even DeFi products. You're going to want to look for the other ones, because the gas fees and everything else in relation to Ethereum is just way too much. Cardano is more than likely is going to be the more corporate, so it may not be ideal for small to medium-sized business. But I think you're going to see in the next 3 or so years the rise of the altcoins, so to speak, like it's a Star Wars flick, and that's going to be good for the space, because you can't say, I'm a proponent of decentralization, and you only talk about Bitcoin. There are more than 8,000 cryptocurrencies in the space. 99%, exaggerating, but most are junk. And I don't mean junk in the sense of, junk in the sense of they probably won't get off the ground. Some are learning experiments and abandoned projects. So you have a lot of that there, not junk in the terms of scams, although scams are a part of it. I think there's a lot of things that, they were too early to the party and the projects were abandoned, or they were only used for educational purposes, never intended for anything. That is a part of that 8,000 plus number. But I think you're really going to have teams, a lot of teams who may have one time worked for Ethereum that are like, I'm fed up because I can solve this problem another way with this altcoin. You're going to find a lot of employees. I mean, we're not extensively working there, but you're going to find a lot of people probably. I started with Consensus and now I'm over here, just like you have in any other industry. Like if you're in the healthcare industry, there aren't that many health providers in the United States. So if you ever worked in health insurance, if you quit or leave, you end up virtually working for the competitor. Or another, it's a small circle. So I think you're going to find a lot of people leaving and joining, instead of trying to start something new, finding out they're now with Dash, or they're now with Litecoin, or they're now with Tron, and definitely with Cardano or something like that. And so definitely I would see those core alts, you're going to see a rise with them in terms of business.
Perfect. Well, thank you everybody who hung out with us this evening. We have so many people here in Zoom. We also have 14 people in YouTube. So yes, I see all of you there in YouTube. Thank you so much for being in both places. Tawana, Talisha, any final words before we head out?
I would just say thank you. I would have asked XRP, hold or sell.
I can't stand Ripple, so
Get
rid of that.
That's my question.
They're gonna come back, but I don't hold only any bones. And the main reason I don't like them is because I talked about this, using Black people as the cash cow. I mean, to be fair, the XRP pumpers used everyone, but the white groups were more efficient at saying, "Get out of here, man. Nobody believes you." Whereas Black people, we're a little too brand loyal. Anybody gets a little spark, and they gave the HBCUs and this and this. We're a little too easy, and so I don't like them, mainly because we knew that they were using us as a cash cow. They knew they were using us for a pump and dump. So the fight against it. So it wasn't that, okay, you're going to be the bank industry's solution to faster remittances. So there's no problem with that. I'm not totally a fan of Stellar. Oh, I forgot to mention Stellar. Stellar will be around for a long time too, because what they did right is Stellar is exactly what Ripple should have been if Ripple wasn't so grimy. So Stellar is like, we know what we are. We're trying to make sure that banks are ready and financial institutions are ready for this new generation technology, so we can do better business. Perfect. That's fine. You know what you are. You're using some of the technology. You might not be the best for some people, but for other people, whatever. But yeah, I'm not a fan of XRP at all. I didn't like they were going around giving money to HBCUs. As a matter of fact, when they gave, I was talking to some of the Morgan State people who, I feel like saying, "Ha, see, I told you," but I just did. They did the Microsoft playbook. Like the Microsoft playbook back in the day was to dump money at all these schools to convince people that Microsoft is the brand of the products. But in those of us who are working in technology, if you had servers, you weren't using NT, you was using Unix. And then when Unix was replaced by Linux, because NTs were crashing left and right. We weren't even using you didn't start using Apple until Apple's backend was Linux. Okay, so basically Unix and Linux, even the military, Unix, Linux, nobody was using, Microsoft, but they're really good with the marketing and the branding. So I saw Ripple and XRP kind of doing the same thing, and it kind of annoyed me because I said to some people behind the scenes directly at Morgan State and other places, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I realize we can't come with the check, but you need to look at this. Don't put your eggs in one basket. But they took checks and they made conferences, and you had Ripple people talking disparagingly about crypto, but you're in crypto. So, so I'm not a fan. I'm like, get rid of it. Even if they come back, and I think they will come back, I think they'll just pay a fine and it'll be ha ha he, and You know, they're already going into these flare thing and everything else. They're already, you know, basically repackaging some of those dead coins. But I don't believe in the Machiavellian approach of kind of marketing is, you know, by any means necessary type thing. I think, you know, when you show yourself for who you are, customers can vote with their dollars and be like, I don't want a part of that. There's too much out there.
Correct.
Too much out there.
But that's the repurposing. I think that's what I'll leave on. You said all these projects, there's abandoned code out there. They started something. So again, we're not starting from zero anymore. We're starting with, I could just go out in the GitHub and get me some code. So you're going to see a lot of new projects with old base code.
And hopefully they fix it.
Well, I think it's just a start. It just helps you. Some of them aren't going to be fixed because they don't want to be fixed, but the others, I think they'll take what it is and that's the start. You just needed somewhere to start. You're not writing with a blank piece of paper. You already have it and now you're enhancing it and doing that. But I think that's where the rise comes in, is because we're not starting from that zero, you know, sum game at this point. We are looking at all these pieces and, you know, I can take a little bit of this, slap it together, put it, but it is that packaging that really, that's the part, is if it looks nice on the outside, but you don't know what that back end is, you're going to run the risk of giving something away or dealing with something that may be not legitimate. And I think that's what we have to educate ourselves on, is learning or asking those appropriate questions. Like, what is your blockchain? You could say, yeah, I have a project. What is your blockchain? What kind of protocol are
what's the use case? And then the other thing is, the other thing is it's part of it is the technology, because there are people that have great technology but they don't do well with marketing. But part of it is people that market to such an extent but they don't really have a product.
Right.
so you got to look past the veneer and see, well, what is it that you have? And the other thing is, you have to, you know, hold people accountable for the grunginess of their marketing. So for me with XRP, it was always the grunginess, and they didn't really single out Black people. I'm in enough white groups where I lurked, where you can see those same type of trolls among white people there. So it just never set well with me, the amount of which they told and lied and said it was going to moon past Bitcoin, and we kept saying it's $1 trillion supply. Where is it mooning? What kind of math are you doing?
That's that new math. That's real new math.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we fought back against that. And we still are pushing in our group on certain things because we're just leery. And so we're not always right. We could just totally be wrong in some cases, but we're basically trying to protect people from being wooed by shiny things.
And with that, everybody, that is the end of Blockchain Chat for this evening. So we'll see you next week, same time, same place, here on Zoom. Thank you to everybody, and I hope you have a great evening. Thank you again, Deidra.
Thank you, Deidra.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
All right.